Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Pod Comics webcast. I am your host, David. As I hope you heard in the mini-sode, the guest this week is Kris Wilson, who makes Cyanide and Happiness. So if you've never been to explosum.net, stop by and use their random comics generator. Check out their shorts, their animation, their shop, whatever. So here goes. Here's my conversation with Kris Wilson in 3, 2... Boop.
All right. Okay, well, let's see. Normally where I start is, well, you make Cyanide and Happiness.
I do.
But you are 25% of Cyanide and Happiness?
I'm 33% of Cyanide and Happiness now.
Explain that.
Well, I originated the comic strip, and back in 2004, 2005, and back then it was called Kamikaze. I ran a little .tk site by myself for about 6 months, and then some friends of mine, we were all animators. We were all children. I like to say children, but we were, in our teens, and several of my colleagues were going to college, and we were all animators, and I wanted to take a break from animating, and instead of doing, a 1200 frame joke, I wanted to do a one frame joke with 6 panels, and I loved comics for years and everything, and so to take a break from animation, started scribbling up a comic the same way that I'd draw comics and pass them to people at school and everything like that. And then my friends over at Stick Suicide, like, we want to start a new webcomic, or we want to start a new website, pardon me. We're going to start a new website that's less about violent stick figure animations, and we want to broaden what we do. So do you mind bringing your violent stick figure comic over to our website, and do you want to do it there? And I hated running a website, so I said, yes, absolutely. And these guys, I admired their work for a long time as well. And we all grouped up together and made the comic daily, and eventually it was myself, Rob Denblaker, Dave Mickelfatrick, and Matt Melvin. And since then, Matt Melvin has moved on to do Last Nerds on Earth, and he also did a comic called Robots with Feelings, which I believe is on hiatus now. But yeah, now it's just myself and Rob and Dave.
Okay. Did you guys, did you know each other at the time, or was it an internet relationship, or were you all living in Wyoming?
It was a complete internet relationship. Actually, we worked together for a couple of years, almost 2 years before we ever met in person. And that was when we met at San Diego Comic-Con. And Dave came over from Ireland, and I went over from Wyoming. And Matt already lived in San Diego. So it was a good opportunity for us to all meet up and meet some fans as well.
You have far more media training than anybody I've ever talked to.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you noticed.
You're also probably the person who's been making comics the longest. I mean, you're definitely than all the people I've talked to. 2004, right?
Yeah. Technically, I consider it 12 years. 12 years officially, because before it was a couple loose images that I was drawing about 3 or 4 a day when I came home from school or work. And yeah, about 12 years now for me.
So does that make your comic older than Facebook?
Not older than Facebook. It's as old. It's about I think it's 2 years older than YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's old. I know, isn't it strange?
Take that. Gosh, I'd kind of like to talk about DeviantArt, because that's how I encountered your work.
Yeah, that's fine.
So before we find out what the hell happened, so when in the 12 years did you join up with DeviantArt?
When in the 12 years? Well, it was really shortly after I started drawing the Kamikaze comics, quote unquote. And for a while I thought, well, I don't want to put them up on DeviantArt, because this is where I'm just scribbling and getting some of my artwork impulses out of the way and getting them out there. And if I'm hosting my comic on DeviantArt, will that take away from my actual website? But then I stopped really being, I guess, so attentive of that, and wanted to just see people share it and enjoy it. And I started posting them up on DeviantArt about 7 months, 8 months after I started the comic. And honestly, people were great on there. I've still, just about every convention I go to, I meet all these people who have been reading since DeviantArt or have even only known the comic from DeviantArt. So it's a stranger place now. I don't use DeviantArt now. A lot of the professionals have left, but I owe a lot to DeviantArt, and I met a lot of professionals. Even some people I still work with today, like Sean Koss, I met through DeviantArt, and he does our background art and a lot of our merch design and things of that nature. He's not really in the webcomic field, but you should definitely check out Sean Koss's stuff.
Okay, well, that's a plug for Sean Koss. So what went wrong with DeviantArt? Do you have any idea?
Well, I mean, I guess nothing went wrong with it. I found myself just appreciating just doing the website version, and DeviantArt also had a bad stigma of, Sonic porn and furry fan art and stuff, and so like a lot of it was for me not as fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
As like some of the feedback was great and people were very nice on there, and I always appreciate that. But the website itself was kind of just drifting away for me. Also, I found myself being thrown on the front page a lot, which I honestly didn't want, because I was being like subjecting these comics to people who honestly didn't want to see them and everything. And that's fun. I do have to admit that there's a part of me that enjoys when people are like when people didn't want this dumb joke up on the front page of DeviantArt, this place full of great artists who are very talented. And but yeah, I guess it kind of felt a little conquered at the same time. I was senior member. Everything I was putting was on the front page. Everything I was submitting would end up on the front page. And then I would go to enjoy the artists that I would go to read on DeviantArt, and they wouldn't be there anymore. So a lot of it was just a lot of the people packing up their bags and looking for a bigger horizon, I guess.
Okay. Well, let me get into. I have this outline, this rough outline I always use, and
Sure.
The first thing I talk about when I talk about people's comics is I like to talk about the title.
The title.
So you say it was Kamikaze,
It was.
which I kind of get, comic, and then
Yeah, and then I saw that, I kind of looked up, and part of what made that change was that Kamikaze was being used for several different not comic series so much as comic services and things like that. So I didn't want a name that really bleeds in with other comics or comic services or anything like that. And I ended up changing it to Cyanide Happiness, which is based off one of my earlier comics about a
cotton candy.
Right, it's the ingredients to back alley cotton candy.
I didn't. It was Back Alley. I read this comic today. I was going to ask you, and then I'm like, well, there's the answer right there.
Yeah, yep, that's the one. And part of the joke for it for me is it was misspelled, and also the CNH abbreviation had a charm to it for me because Calvin and Hobbes was inspiration for me when I was younger.
So the recipe for Back Alley cotton candy is Cyanide and Happiness.
That's correct.
Oh.
That's correct.
I did not know that prior to today.
Yeah.
I've got the date here. It's from April 15th, 2005.
2005. And that's the upload date. I would have to look back to make sure. It very well could have been uploaded a little bit before that as well. Well, I mean, drawn, not uploaded. Pardon me. But when we moved over to the new Explosum website, all the comics that I had previously drawn made about a nice 3-month queue. Mm-hmm. And I have never had a queue since, basically.
How about Explosum? Is there any thought behind that word?
Yeah, Explosum is basically a URL that Rob had on hand because I believe when he was playing StarCraft as a kid, he went through the sound files and there's a small, medium, and large explosion sound. So there's Explose L, Explose M, or Explose
Explo SM.
Yeah. So he went with Explose M.
Gee, I thought it was a combination of the word explosion and orgasm.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, and it's probably better that they do.
All right, well, that's the title. The next thing I like to talk about is the look of a comic. So imagine, if you can, a person who has never, ever encountered your comic. Could you describe it to them?
Okay. Yeah, or if someone had never seen my comic, I would describe it to them as a dark-humored comic starring stick figure, or more square figures, starring square figures and who make light of dark situations and dark of light situations. And then I'd probably get behind them and guide their arms to draw a character in the sand like Patrick Swayze from Ghost.
You mentioned a couple of times the humor itself, but just in terms of look, square figures.
Square figures is what I would consider them.
Because the body is pretty square.
Yeah, that's something, I figure when people hear stick figure, they have many different interpretations. No facial expression. Some people would picture XKCD kind of stick figures. And ours are square figures, simple expressions.
Fair enough. As I went over the archive today, I noticed that for the first 2 years, they were a bit more slender.
Yeah, I had them very tall and gangly, and then I slowly made them smaller and smaller and more cute because I honestly liked the contrast of terrible things happening to these cute characters.
They they got cuter for sure.
Yeah, they got cuter, and then as they got cuter, they also got more terrible.
That's true. Well, that's the look, which you did pretty well. I don't ever know what to expect when I ask people that.
Right.
Because
it's a weird endeavor because it's, it's very much about, the comics look was very based on breaking rules. You open any character design book, the first thing it's going to say is, don't make your characters circular. And I was using fonts that come to an end so they're easier to read. And all these things that I didn't see used in comics that were kind of rule breaking, like no background and
the panels were uneven.
Yeah, scribbly panels. Yeah, and crooked, and a lot of that was it was kind of the anti webcomic in that way.
Your comic becomes sort of more and more chibi-like into 2006.
Yes.
Part of it reminded me of the original square-bodied, round-headed, but there's something about them. There's very crotch-forward, the way they stand. Like I think everybody's leaning forward.
Yeah, everyone's like in a 3/4 angle with their side kind of turned. Their legs are
their groin would definitely be the furthest forward part of their body.
Yeah, they have very wide groins. They have that saddle sore walk.
That's it. Yeah, they look like they just got off a horse.
Yeah, exactly. They all have. It's a part of the lore. They get off their horse to do the comic.
And something about that reminded me of Exploding Dog.
Yeah. I mean, when I think square figure, like a lot of people, there's several webcomic people that I know who do the kind of circular, simple character stuff that could look a little similar to us, and I really dislike how much fans of ours or people in general who just try to call them out as borrowing from us and everything like that. I don't think we invented circles and squares at any point, and I always think of Exploding Dog when I think of who had a square body in their stick figures, or the big solid colors and everything like that. I don't know where Exploding Dog's been, though.
Let's move right into writing.
Okay.
The heart of the show, in my opinion, is about the writing process. And the way that I get at that is that the first thing I do is I ask you to recount the first comic that you wrote, whether it be the one you just finished or the last one that you published.
Okay.
And if you can tell it as if it were a joke, that you get bonus points.
All right, absolutely. Okay, so we'll go with the newest one that I've published. And first I'll just tell the substance of the comic and then get into the process of it.
Okay.
It opens with a big muscular supervillain doing an evil mwahaha laugh, and he's face to face with this superhero. The superhero says, "The spoiler, you'll never get away with this." And the spoiler says, "You are correct." And the superhero says, "No!" and plugs his ears, having their whole future duel spoiled for him.
Aw, poor guy.
I know, right? And he just kind of takes the wind out of his sails there entirely.
I read this joke today, and it's kind of a joke. It's a type of joke that you've made before, and it reminded me of Seeds of Doubt. Do you remember that strip?
Yeah.
It's it's kind of like when you get to the last panel, you have to actually go back a panel because that's where the joke was.
Right, exactly. It kind of folds in on itself and is almost a bit of a paradox at the same time.
Yeah, it does make you think.
Right.
Yeah, because the Seeds of Doubt was this is either the funniest joke. Oh wait, this joke. Wait, what was it?
Yeah, he says a man walks up and sees a person gardening with their straw hat, and they're just shoveling into the dirt. And I believe he says, "What are you planting?" And he says, "I'm planting the seed of doubt." A man not gardening says, "That's the worst joke I've ever heard." Or is it the best? And just less wonder. Yeah, and those are they're not those kind of punch you, ha ha kind of jokes. Really, they're more of contextual.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that one very much.
Thank you.
You have so many comics that I've never had to do this before that I actually could not even try to read all of them.
I would hope not. I believe I'm somewhere around 2,700 now.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's a lot.
Because it's like 8 a month for 12 years. Does that sound right? Or are there other ones? That doesn't sound right. That sounds like 1,000.
Yeah, it's about 5, 6 a month. Let me think. It's on average 2 a week, but sometimes we fill in for each other, and often we also ghostwrite for each other here and there. So I would say it's on average 2 to 3 a week.
Okay.
Not counting the animations or anything, but yeah, the comics 2 to 3 a week.
So that was the last comic that you did.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning of it, you said before you get into like the writing of it.
Oh, the process of writing.
The process. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say about the process?
Well, when it comes to writing, I'd say that you can stick by a process over and over, but I prefer to change my process of writing. I'll notice if I find myself getting stuck, I'll flip my process around and try new things. And for that comic, to make an example, I was building a fence out in my backyard because I have to keep my dog within my yard. It's the law. And
damn it!
I know, right?
Spoken like a true libertarian.
I just want to be a Dr. Frankenstein kind of pet owner, where if it lets loose, then it's the town's fault. But
I've never read Frankenstein. I didn't think it was about a dog.
It's about a pet.
It's a very interesting interpretation.
Yeah.
I guess Tim Burton knew that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Anyhow, yeah, I was building a fence, digging, and I was just thinking about, like yourself, you're inspired by directors. I'm the same way. When I watch films and when I watch movies, I very much enjoy the strings instead of the puppets. I'm a fan of directors and just framing and camera work and editing, and a lot more than actors. And I was thinking to myself that, for that reason, when people tell me spoilers, I don't mind. I'll still watch the movie. It doesn't bother me at all. In fact, someone tells me a spoiler to a movie, I'll watch it, keeping in mind what the director's doing to how to conceal a twist or things of that nature. So it doesn't bother me. And I was considering that like a bit of a superpower to be unaffected by spoilers. And it's like, I guess it's more of a super villainous one. And the trail of thought ended up going to a supervillain named the Spoiler. And so usually when an idea hits like that where it could possibly work, you have a joke or you have a setup and you want to go at it later, you write it down immediately. I'll recommend that for everyone. Write it down immediately. Very often when you think, I'll remember that later, your brain, I think, just does defragments and just kind of throws it away. And I'll have jokes that I'm very confident about and be like, I love that. I don't need to write that down, and I'll immediately forget it. But so yeah, usually I write down a sentence or a fragmented sentence in my phone or on a notepad or on a file. If I have a computer in front of me, I'll just open a file up and write it down. And so I'm a bit of a hoarder of idea lists and concept lists. I got them all over the place.
That was idea lists.
Idea lists. Yeah. Idea space lists. Yeah. So when I find myself being stuck, or if I'm writing and I'm finding myself having to push an idea or really struggle, I'll start by drawing, which is something I don't normally do every time, by like sketching it out on paper. Or I'll, pacing's a big thing for me. I pace to think about writing constantly. I hear that Mark Twain does the same thing, actually.
Oh, he stopped.
Oh, yeah? He stopped pacing?
Quite a long time ago. I hate to break it to you, but
that's why his new work is really empty.
Yeah, Mark Twain has passed. I'm sorry to be the person to.
I'm gonna need at least a few moments to let this sink in.
Right. We're gonna talk more about your list of ideas.
Okay.
But before we get there, because this ties in pretty well, do you know what the next comic you're gonna do is?
Maybe. I have to make one tonight. Well, yeah, I will be making one tonight, and I usually even if I have an idea that I'm certain I'm going to make, I lately have been getting into the habit of still sitting down for an hour or two and still writing, even though if I have an idea that I know I'm going to be using or not. I want to make sure, because very often there will be something that pops up that I just feel more inspired to do, or something that stands out to me more, or something that is more concrete, so I can give other ideas more time to cook. And as that goes on, because we're very often facing deadlines with our writing when it comes to things like the animations and the books that we release and the daily webcomic and everything in between. So there's a lot of I suppose temptation to just like kind of get one done. And okay, I have the idea, good, I can get one done, I can get early, but I find myself enjoying the process of drawing it less when I end up doing that. And also when it goes up, I just kind of, when I upload the comic, if it's one of those situations where you kind of just are against the wall with time and you have to put it up there, I find myself not really worried or concerned or interested in how the comic does. And I don't like that. I love making comics. It's what I've honestly been drawing comics since I was maybe 4 years old. And so I have an idea, and I have a couple ideas that I could choose, but I won't know for sure until the 11th hour. And
which is tonight.
Yeah, which is tonight. And that plays a lot into like the fact that I don't have a queue ever, that I don't have the next 2 weeks of comics made already, even though they're very simple and could potentially be very quick and easy to draw. And the reason is, when I do that, I find myself going back and fixing things and adjusting little things here and there. And a lot of it will be needless art things. Some of it will be phrasing. And so I just cut out the middleman there and make sure that I am writing up to that 11th hour.
What does writing look like? Are you writing scripts? Like, are you, like, what does writing mean?
For me, it starts with a lot of pacing, back and forth, and then if it's not a fragmented sentence in my phone, I'll sit down and I'll type it would be, I guess, more of a. It's definitely more draft based than a script.
Mhm.
It'd be, guy 1, this is dialogue, action. Guy 2 says this, and then it's typed out like on an actual notepad. So you'll see. I use brackets to communicate settings to myself. I use asterisks to communicate actions to myself, and then I just use semicolon dialogue, and I'll type line for line and kind of riff off what I've written before. And yeah, depending on how I'm switching up the process of writing, depends on if I'm still having a good time just having a notepad in front of me and just writing dialogue or writing concepts in action.
You mentioned a couple of these, like the idea fragments, the seeds of an idea.
Right.
Do you have any of those handy? Because I love to hear them.
Yeah, I should. One moment. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this seeing how the sausage is made, and it's always. I feel like with several comic artists I've talked to, they will find these. They're usually just a strange sentence, or part of a sentence,
or maybe a couple of words.
Right, exactly. And so here I have. Teacher says that there's no such thing as a stupid question. Student asks, "Is this a stupid question?" And then they're both in the corner with dunce caps. For example.
That's almost a whole joke.
Almost.
You got to give me a little bit less.
Okay, I can give you less. Let's see. The princess is being held at another castle. Well, at least she's being held.
Aww.
Yeah.
It's a sweet one.
I know. Aww. And but there's a side effect to this, because you'll often come across a line that you forgot what the meaning was, and it'll just say like something like lemonade war, and you'll have no idea what you meant at the time. Sleepy pranking coma patients.
Okay. I love that. I don't even want more. That's perfect.
Right.
Sleepy, cranky, pranking.
Oh,
sleepy, pranking. I know, I just got it wrong. Sleepy, pranking coma patients.
That's correct.
I would watch that movie. It sounds like it's from the 80s.
Yeah, or it sounds like, or like a indie band.
I don't know. What is the prank, that they're not having a coma, or?
I think the idea is generally a man, like you start with a guy who's like doing your trope style. Someone's asleep, let's prank them, like putting shaving cream in their hands and tickling them.
Yeah.
And then I guess I picture like a nurse flicking on the light and saying, "Doctor, please leave them alone," or something like that. Or
I'm afraid you're going to have to leave the coma ward.
Right, exactly. Like they're unaware that they're coma patients or something of that nature.
Visiting hours are over.
Yeah, visiting hours are over, sir.
Have you got one more? Because these are great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Man, I got these all over the place. Let's see. Some of these I have done since. All we have to eat, all the canned goods in our bomb shelter are canned laughter. That one's strange.
Wordplay, which if I've seen your most recent cartoon.
Right.
A
lot of wordplay. I also like I like getting into idioms and proverbs and tropes, and something about it is it's a lot more fun to me. I like staying away from pop culture as much as possible, just to keep the shelf life of the comic to be enjoyable for longer.
Yeah, it's something we have in common.
Yeah. I admire that because it's sometimes it's really tempting, and it's often natural and easy to write something that's a current event, and
when it comes to Princess in Another Castle, it's obviously it's still around. That's a 20-year-old reference, therefore it's not pop culture, it's culture now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
How many ideas do you think you got in there?
Well, I don't know, maybe 3, 4.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, but you know how it is. You'll come back after something maybe sits away for a month or maybe years, and you have a different interpretation of it, different perspective.
I'll get flashes of just something which I think is going to be beautiful. So like the image of two guys around a pool table, just that lighting and the felt, the way it glows, like that's pretty to me. I'll be walking around and I'll be thinking about pool or something, and I'll be like, oh, I should do a comic about pool. So I'll just write down billiards, and I'll wait, and eventually an idea will come.
Right.
Centered around a pool table.
That's very interesting. So yeah, I think that it's a big sign of that director's eye that you're approaching the comic with.
All right. So we did address the next No, I'm not sure that I got a good idea of what you're going to... When you sit down, we got an idea that you're going to get started, but you don't know?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll sit down. If I do or I don't, I'll still be sure to write for a few more hours and see what comes up. But yeah, the process is often... Honestly, I find myself very often on Wikipedia. You know? On Wikipedia, just kind of impulsively clicking through things, and the TV Tropes website as well. Things like that. They help me bring a setting to mind sometimes, or just in certain ways flashing to the middle of a situation rather than at the beginning of a situation or conversation and things like that. So I'll often sit there and even do needless research that won't appear in the comic anywhere. Like at one point I found myself researching if I had to pick the most interesting plane crash, for example, and I'd find myself on Wikipedia just kind of looking through them.
Is there a list of most interesting plane crashes on Wikipedia?
Maybe not most interesting. There's a list of plane crashes for sure.
Oh yeah, no, Wikipedia is great for lists. I would think that most interesting plane crash would redirect to 9/11, right?
Well, I mean,
you literally said, not this again.
Man, and every time I love that. And every time I do the conventions in Canada, man, they want us to do so many 9/11 sketches, so many, and I think that's completely appropriate considering. And they're like, "Hey, you're American. Draw this American thing." I'm like, "Yeah, sure."
I saw something today on the website that said "Cyanide and Happiness Live."
Right.
What is that?
We do this very fun thing at conventions where we don't want to just, sign a print, shake a hand, and send people on their way. We give people the opportunity to have sketches, or if they get a large sketch, we'll all collaborate and improvise at the same time. All the artists who are there. So if it's Rob, Dave, and I there, we'll all three of us go crazy on this one big sketch. And people will often come with topics or requests that they want us to draw, or we have a box of topics that people pull randomly from or pick and choose. There's no rules, just that people allow us to improvise their sketch, and it's a lot of fun. It's completely different from your normal comic writing process, and so live, that's exactly what we do. You get your sketch card, you come around to us, you pick your box of topics, or you tell us, a lot of people would say, I want to see Jesus as Sailor Moon or something. And then we, just kind of draw it up, and it makes it fun for us as well, because we get to improvise, laugh with them. And we're going to be making it more of an online event as well, because right now it's specifically conventions, and we're going to be trying. I want to do
with like Twitch or with whom?
Twitch or YouTube actually they're getting their live streaming stuff together really well. So that's a good option for us, especially since we have an audience there who would be receptive to calling in and chatting in and things like that.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good idea.
That's a lot of fun, and it's also it's inadvertently given us a lot of comic ideas or animation ideas along the way. Some of our more prolific animations came from convention sketches, improvised live sketching.
Very cool.
But It's exhausting, though. It's really difficult. I love doing it, but by the end of the day, you kind of see how much of a toll it takes on you to improvise for 10 hours a day.
I'll have to check that out, because when you say improvise, you don't mean you're not acting. You just mean in drawing and creating the comic.
Comedy, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because some you'll want to contextualize joke, and a lot of people, since we do Depressing Comic Week and Depressing Comic episodes, a lot of people want improvised depressing stuff as well.
Huh.
So a lot of it is just, all of it's on the fly. You gotta just be saying yes, yes, and when people have a suggestion that you're not even familiar with, a lot of people will ask me to do things to movies I've never seen, and yeah, certainly. Yeah, I'll draw it, but I won't draw it well, and that's my guarantee.
Do you do any of the voice stuff for the show?
Yeah, we all do quite a bit of the voice stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I'm actually a little hoarse from voice acting. The day before yesterday, I was playing a screaming kid, and it was about a 2-hour session, so I'm a little bit losing my voice a little bit, but yeah, that's also a lot of why I got my audio set up. And
sure.
Because I like to do as much of the recording as I can from home.
Yeah, I hear that if you're going to do like a screaming session, that you always want to book that on Friday so that you have the weekend to recuperate.
Yeah. Oh, we've ran into every issue you can have with people calling the police thinking there's real screamings going on. People knocking on the door at our studio in Texas saying, "Hey, we heard yelling on the other end. We came to see if everything's okay." Or, "Hey, do you mind moving it to the other room?" And things like that. Yeah. Yeah. Especially the kind of stuff we have to scream and yell. And the more isolated I can get, the better.
Maybe you want to move it back to Wyoming.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's so isolated. It's
Huh. What's this connection to the proximity to Mormons and being very funny but also filthy?
Well, I mean, like, because Mormons live very close to each other often.
Yeah.
You know, like your Mormon family will, like my Mormon family is very next door. And so, you know, if you can't exactly just, you know, with especially when it's within your own family, you can't just show them these stupid, silly, dark comics you're drawing or animations you're making or anything of that nature, because they're from like a completely different upbringing.
I suppose what I mean to say is there's certainly a similarity between what you do and what South Park does. Yes. And they also have some sort of connection to Colorado and Mormons.
Exactly.
And I'm wondering if there's a greater reason.
There's a greater reason in what aspect? A greater reason.
Have you ever... why is it that people who grow up so near Mormons end up making the most filthy, depraved humor in the world?
Because a lot of it is very... because the way I feel that a lot of Mormonism reacts to things that are like dark nature and things like South Park. Obviously Matt Stone and Trey Parker are inspiration, and they Mormons they don't get as aggressive or as offended, or even they don't have as good of a sense of humor as a lot of folks you'll find in other religions like Catholicism or Christianity. For me, Mormonism, it's that it gets buttoned down to the point where it's pent up, I feel, a lot. And I think same with the South Park people, it's very unique. It's a very unique culture.
I don't know much about Mormonism. I think that honestly South Park has done as much to spread the word as anybody, possibly more. But
even more than their actual religion. Yeah, it seems like they're making it very widely known.
Yeah, I'm not going to say accepted or appreciated or legitimized, but known for sure.
I think that they actually do a very elegant way.
Yeah,
to explain Mormonism.
I don't think they deride it. You know, like I'm not sure because. Oh well. I don't need to talk about South Park. They're doing pretty good, those guys.
They are. We had the pleasure of going. We got invited to their studio last year, and we got to tour it around. And yeah, they're doing very well. It's amazing how much that they actually do, and the amount that they do that we will never see is insane. They're very hardworking.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, speaking of, like, is that the arc you're hoping to take? You going to get into musical theater eventually?
I definitely want to do a musical. We've had a couple musical ideas for a good while, and we've had a couple situations where we've been offered a musical, I want to say, as far as what to do with our animations and our animation series. And yeah, I mean, we are all, like, Rob, Dave, and I were multi-instrumentalists. We all have a background in music, and Steve Lemon, he's been orchestrating our music for years and years and years, and he does an exceptional job. And he, doing a musical would be great. I don't want to do Broadway, so to speak.
Yeah,
that's a completely different beast. But
a film, feature length.
Yeah, absolutely.
Huh.
I think that I mean, honestly,
it's like a 10-year plan.
Right. Well, when you consider when we have the shorts that we do on YouTube, every week, and then we also have our animation series that we do, and that a year of that is about 3 hours of animation. So a feature-length
4 months.
film.
Oh wait, sorry, I'm bad at math. 6 months.
Right.
Half a year. Why not?
Yeah. So I mean, like, feature-length something sounds fun, and honestly, a lot more tangible than a whole season and then shorts as well every week with the daily comic and all that.
I just try to imagine what you guys would do, but I'll let that to you. We
have ideas. I'm going to keep them in my back pocket.
Fair enough.
Because there's a good chance we'll be seeing it soon.
Cool. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Well, I mean, don't congratulate me yet. I mean, it could be the worst thing ever.
Do you read comics on the internet?
Yes, I read a lot of comics on the internet.
All right, do me a favor. Give me a rundown of some of your favorite stuff to read.
Some of my favorite stuff to read. Well, as far as for a long time, all the comics that Casey Green does. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of great work, as well as I would definitely check out Death Bulge and Channel 8.
Yep.
Yeah, they do great stuff. Like there's Extra Fabulous. There's Poorly Drawn Lines. There's Cheer Up Emo Kid as well. I find myself recently really enjoying comics like Moonbeard, although I'm not sure if it's still active, and Shitfest is one Tyler Hendricks does.
Moonbeard is, I think, active on Webtoon, the website I'm on.
It is?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that one's been great. Invisible Hairsuit is another one that could use some more love. It's really great. That one might be the one I'm thinking of that's less active.
That's the first one you've named that I'm not familiar with. Invisible Hairsuit.
Invisible Hairsuit. It's a lot like Moonbeard in a way, where it's very very nice, simple art with pretty colors, and then it's a bit of surrealist humor.
Yeah. So, final thoughts.
Okay.
Thank you for talking. Sincerely.
Thank you so much for having me. No, really, I really appreciate it. And I think it's an excellent conversation. I love hearing just more and more about how people get their ideas together.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got the show going.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking, Kris. Take it easy.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks again to Kris for taking the time to talk to me. If you'd like a chance to catch Cyanide and Happiness live, I can tell you that they'll be at San Diego Comic-Con from July 20th to the 24th. And in addition, they'll be appearing at New York Comic-Con from October 6th to 9th. So go ahead, go see them. Do one of those improvised sketches. Should be pretty fun. Okay, so my next guest will be Alex Norris, who makes Doris McComics. So in the time that you have between now and then, please go to dorismccomics.com and read all of those comics. Last, thank you so much for listening. Please take the time to comment and to share and to rate, because that helps more people find the podcast. Rate it on iTunes, rate it on SoundCloud. I don't know, rate it wherever you listen to it. All right, well, that does it for me, guys. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.